The ranch was fading in quietness. Ethan Vance stood in a cold spot at daybreak, viewing the paper fastened to the worker's house door. The debt notice moved in the air, its edges already curving from the chill. 9 days. That is all the bank had allowed him. 9 days until everything his father built, everything Ethan had fought for, would belong to another person. Christmas was 5 days away. Not that it mattered. The cattle were thin, bones showing through dull coats. The wind fan groaned with every push of air, one blade broken completely apart. The water pump complained each time he moved the handle, metal grinding on metal like it was begging to stop. Ethan understood the feeling, but stopping early felt worse than losing slowly. So he worked, from dark till dark. Fence posts, food bags, anything to keep his hands busy and his mind from counting the time. The land stretched out around him, brown and dry under a gray sky. It used to mean something. Now it just felt like a heavy thing he could not put down. He had made a choice 3 weeks before, a fearful one, the kind you make when being alone becomes another bill you cannot settle. He had placed an ad in the local paper: land, house, future. Simple words for a big lie. He had not mentioned the damage below, not mentioned the bank or the bill or the buyer circling like a bird waiting for something to die. Silas Quinn, rich and waiting. Silas had made an offer 2 times already, each time with that smile that showed he knew how this would end. Ethan had said no both times, but the third offer was coming. He could feel it. The passenger coach was due today. Ethan walked to the barn, boots crunching through the frost. Inside, the air smelled of old hay and rust. He checked the horses, fed what little food he had left, then stood there in the dim light trying to figure out what to say to a woman who thought she was coming to a working ranch instead of a place of sadness. By noon, he was waiting at the edge of town. The wind cut through his coat. Other men stood close by, waiting for goods or family. Ethan kept to himself. When the passenger coach finally rolled in, dust rising behind it, his chest tightened. The door opened. The woman who stepped down was not what he had pictured. She did not look like hope or saving or any of the things he had let himself picture in weak moments. She looked weary. Her coat was fixed at the elbows, her boots scratched and old. She carried one large box herself and did not wait for the driver or anyone else to help her. She set it down and faced him. "I'm Laura Brooks," she said. Her voice was flat, careful, no warmth, no hope. "I guess you're Ethan." He nodded, stepped forward and took the box without a word. It was heavier than it should have been, packed tightly with whatever life she had brought with her. They rode back in silence. Ilara sat next to him on the cart, hands resting in her lap, eyes looking at the far line where the sky meets the land. Ethan tried to see the ranch the way she must be seeing it. The sagging fence line, the empty pen, the furnace near the barn, cold and red with rust, the shed with half its roof fallen in. She did not say anything, just looked, the way someone looks at a hurt place before deciding how bad it is. When they reached the house, Ethan carried her box inside. The cabin was clean but empty. He had done his best. It was not enough. Ilara stood in the door, taking it all in. "Thank you," she said softly. Ethan nodded and left her alone. That night he would tell her the truth. Ethan waited until after the evening meal to tell her. They sat across from each other at the small table, tin plates between them. He had cooked what he could: beans, hard bread, coffee that tasted like burned wood. Ilara ate without saying anything. She had not opened her bags, had not asked questions, just moved through the evening like someone saving energy for what was next. The lamplight moved between them. Outside, the wind got stronger, shaking the window covers. Ethan put down his cup. "There is something you need to know," he said. Ilara looked at him, waited. "The ranch is failing," he said. "It has been for 2 years. Dry weather took the grass. I lost half the animals. Couldn't pay the helpers, so they left. Couldn't fix what broke. The bank gave me until the 28th, 9 days from now. After that, they take it. Foreclosure." He watched her face. She did not move back, did not look away. "There is a man," Ethan went on,
Silas Quinn. He has been waiting for this. He will buy it from the bank for half its worth and turn it into part of his holdings. He has been patient. He knows I am sinking." Ilara's hands held her cup more tightly. "You should have told me," she said finally. Her voice was calm, but something sharp was underneath it. "In the ad, in the letters, you should have told me." "I still might not have," she said, "but at least I would have known what I was walking into."
Ethan felt the shame grow in his chest. She was right. He had lied by keeping things back, brought her here by making things seem good when they were not, because he was too proud to say the truth and too desperate to face it alone. "I'm sorry," he said. Ilara stood, carried her plate to the sink, and stood there with her back to him, looking out the dark window at nothing. "What were you hoping for?" she asked. "That I would fix it? That a wife would somehow make the debt disappear?" "I don't know," Ethan said. "I wasn't thinking straight. Haven't been for a while." She turned. Her eyes were hard now, no softness left. "I came here because I had no other place to go," she said. "My father died 6 months ago. The shop went to the people I owed money to. I had a box, $40, and no family. Your ad promised something steady, a working together. That's what you called it in the letter." Working together. Ethan remembered writing that word. It had felt true at the time. Now it just felt like another lie. "I meant it," he said. "Did you?" Ilara crossed her arms. "Or did you just need someone to see the end?" The words hit harder than he expected. Maybe because they were true. Maybe he had wanted someone else there when it all finally fell apart. Someone to share the weight of losing. "I don't know what I wanted," Ethan said, honestly. "But I know what I need. I need to save this place, and I can't do it alone." Ilara looked at him closely. The lamplight made shadows across her face. She looked older than her years, worn down by something deeper than travel. "I'm not a miracle," she said. "I can work, I'm good with my hands, but I can't save a sinking ship with 9 days and no tools." "I know. Then why am I here?" Ethan didn't have an answer that wouldn't sound selfish. Ilara sighed. "Sit back down. I'll stay through Christmas," she said. "After that, if this place goes down, we figure out what's next, apart or together, but no more lies. If we're doing this, we do it honestly." Ethan nodded. "Honest," he said. They sat in silence. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, the lamp burned low. Neither of them knew if 9 days was enough time to save anything. But the rules were set. Morning would come fast. Ethan woke before dawn to the sound of metal hitting metal. He lay still for a moment, confused. The cabin was cold. The fire had burned down to ashes. The sound came again, a strong strike, clear and regular. He pulled on his boots and coat and stepped outside. The sky was still dark, stars fading at the edges. Smoke rose from the furnace. Ethan crossed the yard. The furnace glowed orange in the pre-dawn light, heat moving in the frozen air. Ilara stood at the heavy block, hammer in hand, striking a piece of iron that glowed white-hot. She'd rolled up her sleeves even though it was cold. Sweat was on her forehead. She didn't look up when he came near. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Working," she said. She lifted the iron with tongs, looked at it, then put it back into the coals. The air pump whistled as she pushed air into the fire. Sparks flew up into the dark. Ethan looked around. She had cleaned the furnace area. The tools that had been scattered and rusty were now put in order on a bench she must have dragged from the shed. The firebox had been rebuilt with brick she'd found from somewhere. The coal pile, which he thought was too wet to burn, was now feeding a steady flame. "How long have you been out here?" he asked. "Since 4. "Ilara." "I'm a metal worker," she said, cutting him off. She pulled the iron out again and laid it on the block. The hammer came down hard, shaping the metal with fast, exact hits. "My father ran a shop outside Cheyenne, taught me from the time I could lift a hammer. When the train tracks came through, they built their own metal shop, sold things for less than he did. He died trying to keep up." She struck again. The metal bent to her will. "I kept the shop going for 2 years after," she went on. "Did everything. Horseshoes, tools, wagon fixes. But a woman running a furnace? People didn't trust it. It didn't matter how good the work was, they took their business to other places. Finally, I couldn't pay the rent. Ethan watched her work. Every move was practiced, good at its job, no wasted movement. She wasn't guessing, she knew exactly what she was doing. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. Ilara finally stopped, set down the hammer, looked at him. "You didn't ask what I could do. You asked if I'd come, so I came." The words sat between them. Ethan felt something shift in his chest. Pride, maybe, or shame. He'd been so focused on his own failure that he hadn't thought about what she might bring besides company. He'd expected a wife, not a solution. "What are you making?" he asked. "Hinge pins. Saw half the doors in this place hanging uneven. Figured I'd start there. After that, I'll fix the water pump, then the wind fan part, then whatever else is broken." She picked up the hammer again. People pay for good ironwork. Farmers need plow blades sharpened, tools fixed. Wagon drivers need axles fixed. There's a market here, Ethan. You've just been too busy trying to run a cattle ranch to see it. Ethan stared at her, at the furnace, at the work already done in a few hours since midnight. "We have 9 days. Then we'd better not waste them." She turned back to the block and struck. The sound rang out across the empty yard, sharp and sure, a strong statement. The ranch had been silent for so long that the noise felt like something waking up. Ethan stood there another moment, then went to the barn. If she was going to work, so was he. He had fences to fix, tools to sharpen, bills to organize. If they were going to lose, they'd lose while working. But maybe, just maybe, they wouldn't lose at all. The sun broke over the horizon, and the furnace burned bright. They fell into a pattern that felt more like just surviving than working together. Ilara worked the furnace from dawn until her hands ached. Ethan hauled wood, cut fence posts, fixed the barn roof where winter had torn through. They moved around each other like strangers sharing a small boat, careful, good at their jobs, saving words for when they mattered. By the second day, a farmer named Dietrich showed up with a broken plow blade. "Heard there's a metal worker working out here," he said, looking at Ilara with open doubt. "There is," Ilara said. She took the blade, looked closely at the crack, and set a price. Dietrich waited, looked at Ethan. "She knows what she's doing," Ethan said. The farmer paid half right away and came back the next afternoon. The blade was fixed, not just joined, but made stronger. The edge was made hard again and sharp to a clean line. Dietrich tested it with his thumb, nodded slowly, and paid the rest. "I'll tell others," he said. Word spread the way it does in a big country with few people, slow but sure. A wagon driver brought a bent cart axle. A rancher needed horseshoes. A woman from town came with a broken door latch and left with 2 new ones, better than the first. Ilara charged fair prices, not cheap ones. People paid. Some came back with more work. Ethan kept the book, wrote down every job, every payment. The numbers went up, but not fast enough. He did the math each night by lamplight, taking away what they owed from what they'd made. The difference was still too wide. On the 4th day, Silas Quinn rode up. Ethan was hauling scrap iron to the furnace when he saw the horse, a tall animal, clean and costly. Quinn sat easily in the saddle, hat tilted back, smiling like he'd come to watch something fun. "Heard you've got a furnace running," Quinn said. He got off the horse, tied the reins over the fence. "Interesting choice?" Ethan set down the iron. Ilara kept working, hammer striking steadily behind him. "We're busy," Ethan said. Quinn walked closer, hands in his pockets. He was younger than Ethan, cleaner, well-fed. Everything about him said money and patience. "The bank will take this place in 5 days," Quinn said. His voice was casual, almost friendly. "I'll buy it after. Save yourself the shame, Ethan. Sell to me now. I'll give you enough to start over somewhere else." "We're not selling." Quinn's smile widened. "You think a few horseshoes are going to cover what you owe?" Behind them, Ilara's hammer went silent. Quinn turned, noticing her for the first time. His eyes moved over her, the dirt on her face, the leather apron, the hammer in her hand. "Didn't take you for a working woman," he said. Ilara set the hammer down carefully.
walked forward until she stood beside Ethan. She looked at Quinn with the same look she'd used to check bad metal. "Didn't take you for anything useful," she said. Quinn's smile dropped, then came back harder. "Cute," he said. He looked at Ethan. "Do you think this changes anything? You're fighting to live. I'm offering you a way out." "We don't need your way out," Ethan said.
"You will," Quinn said. He walked back to his horse, got onto the seat. 5 days, Ethan. Then it's not your choice anymore." He rode off slowly, like a man with all the time in the world. Ethan's hands were tight fists at his sides. The old anger was back, the kind that made him want to hit first and think later, the kind that had gotten him into trouble before. Ilara touched his arm just once, softly. "He's trying to shake you up," she said. "Don't let him." Ethan breathed, nodded. They went back to work. That night, the book showed progress. Not enough, but progress, with 4 days left. By Christmas Eve, Ethan was running on anger and coffee that tasted like dirt. He hadn't slept more than 4 hours in the past 3 nights. Every muscle hurt. His hands were raw from work, knuckles split from cold and rubbing. The book sat open on the table, numbers that refused to add up to saving him. They'd made money, more than he'd thought possible in 5 days, but it wasn't enough, not even close. The debt was a wall they kept throwing themselves against. Ilara sat across from him, steam rising from her own cup. Her face was tired, shadows under her eyes. She'd been working 18-hour days at the furnace, barely stopping to eat. Her hands were wrapped where sore spots had opened and bled. "We're short," Ethan said. He didn't need to say how much. They both knew. "I know." Outside, the wind howled. Christmas morning, the bank would come. The law would come. It would all be over. Ilara set down her cup. "There's the Christmas sale?" she said. Ethan looked up. "What?" "Red Bluff. They hold a sale on Christmas Eve. Runs until midnight. People come from 3 counties. Ranchers, miners, families. They buy gifts, supplies, and special items." She paused. "Ironwork." Ethan shook his head. "That's 50 miles. We'd need to leave now. And there's a stand fee, moving costs. If we don't sell—" "If we don't go," Ilara cut in, "we lose quietly. At least this way we go down fighting." He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her it was too risky, too desperate. But what did they have left except desperation? "What would you bring?" he asked. Ilara stood, walked to the corner where she'd been stacking finished work. She pulled back a cover. Underneath were pieces Ethan hadn't seen. Custom iron latches with fancy designs. A plow blade she'd made hard using some method he didn't know. The metal dark and strong. A gate hinge shaped like cottonwood leaves, detailed and beautiful. Hooks, hinges, tools, all of it made with a care that went beyond just being useful. "When did you make these?" Ethan asked. "Nights," Ilara said, "after you went to sleep." He looked at her, at the tiredness etched into her face, the strong will that kept her standing. She'd been working while he slept, building things to sell for a risk she hadn't even mentioned until now. "Why didn't you say something?" "Because you would have told me not to waste time on fancy pieces," Ilara said. "You would have said we needed to focus on practical work, and you would have been right. But practical work wasn't going to get us there, Ethan. We needed something more." She was right. He would have said exactly that. "If this fails," Ethan said slowly, "we lose faster. We'll have nothing left." "If we don't try," Ilara said, "we lose anyway. At least this way, we're in control." Ethan looked at the pieces again. They were good, better than good, the kind of work people would stop to admire, the kind they'd pay higher prices for. He nodded. "We'll need the wagon, blankets to wrap the pieces." "Food for the trip already packed," Ilara said. Of course she had. They loaded the wagon by lamplight, working quickly despite the weariness. Every piece wrapped carefully, secured against the journey. The horses sensed the urgency, stamping and blowing steam into the frozen air. By the time they were ready, it was past midnight. Christmas Eve had arrived. They had 1 day left. Ethan climbed up onto the wagon seat. Ilara sat beside him, the wrapped ironwork stacked behind them like hopes made solid. He snapped the reins. The wagon rolled forward into the darkness, leaving the failing ranch behind. Ahead, 50 miles of frozen road. Behind, everything they couldn't afford to lose. The horses pulled steadily. The stars moved overhead. They didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. Either this worked or it didn't. They reached Red Bluff as dawn broke cold and pale over the mountains. The town was already busy. Wagons lined the main street, sellers setting up stands under simple covers. The smell of roasting meat and pine smoke filled the air. Families moved through the early light, wrapped against the cold, voices carrying in the stillness. Ethan paid the stand fee, money they couldn't spare, and they took a spot near the center of the sale. Not the best place, but easy to see. Ilara unwrapped the pieces while Ethan built a display frame from spare wood. They worked in silence, hands numb, breath showing vapor. By the time the sun cleared the hill, they were ready. The ironwork sat arranged on rough wooden shelves, useful pieces in front, decorative ones raised to catch the eye. The plow blade, the latches, the cottonwood hinge, everything Ilara had poured herself into during those sleepless nights. People walked past. Some glanced, most didn't stop. An hour passed, then 2. Ethan felt the familiar, heavy feeling of failure settling over him. They'd risked everything on this. 50 miles, the stand fee, time they didn't have, and people were walking past like the work was invisible. Ilara stood quiet beside him, face unreadable. Then a rancher stopped. Older man, worn face, hands like leather. He picked up one of the latches, turned it over, and felt the weight. "Who made this?" he asked. "I did," Ilara said. The rancher looked at her, back at the latch. He set it down, picked up another piece, checked the weld, the finish. "Good work," he said. "How much?" Ilara set a price. The rancher nodded and paid without arguing. Others started to notice. A woman stopped to look at the decorative hinge. A wagon driver checked the reinforced hooks. A store owner from the next county over asked about the plow blade, wanting to know the hardening method. Word moved through the sale the way it had moved through the county, person to person, quiet but sure. By midday, they'd sold half the stock. Ilara's hands never stopped moving, wrapping purchases, making change, answering questions about custom orders. Ethan handled the money, kept track of sales, his mind calculating all the time. The numbers were climbing, truly climbing. A definite order came from a store owner for door hardware. A mining company boss wanted 20 custom hooks. A woman ordered a set of fireplace tools. The sun moved overhead. The crowd grew thicker. Then Ethan saw him. Silas Quinn stood at the edge of the sale, watching. He wasn't alone. 2 men stood beside him, dressed too well for ranch work. Quinn's eyes moved over the crowd, the stand, the shrinking stock. He was counting, figuring things out. That smile was gone. Ethan felt Ilara tense beside him. She'd seen him too. The buyer approached, a rancher Ethan knew from the Southern Valley. He held up the cottonwood hinge, looking closely at the detail. "Who made this?" the rancher asked. Ethan opened his mouth, stopped. The words he'd always used, the careful avoiding, the unclear answers that protected his pride, rested on his tongue like ash. He looked at Ilara, at her wrapped hands, at the tiredness she wore like armor, at everything she'd given to keep his ranch alive. "She did," Ethan said. His voice carried across the stand. "Every piece here. She's a metal worker. This ranch stands because of her." Ilara's head turned. Something flashed across her face. Surprise, and something deeper, something that had been hidden. The rancher nodded, impressed. "I'll take 3 of these. Can you make more?" "I can," Ilara said quietly. The sale was made. Others followed. Quinn watched from the shadows, his certainty breaking. By evening, they'd sold everything. The shelves were empty, the locked box was full. Orders for future work were written in Ethan's book, weeks of guaranteed income. Ilara counted the money twice, looked at Ethan. "It's enough," she said. Ethan nodded, couldn't speak. The relief was too big. They packed the wagon as night fell. Christmas lights shone in the windows. Somewhere, church bells rang. They drove through the night, neither wanting to stop. The wagon wheels creaked over frozen ground. Stars were scattered overhead like thrown silver. Ethan held the reins loose, letting the horses set their own speed. Beside him, Alara sat wrapped in a blanket, the locked box on her lap. She hadn't let it out of her sight since they'd left Red Bluff. Neither of them slept. Too much excitement, too much fear that if they stopped moving, something would go wrong, that the money would disappear, that the bank would take the ranch early, that Quinn would find some way to take it all. They reached the ranch as dawn broke on Christmas morning. The house looked the same, worn, sagging, half broken, but something felt different. Maybe it was them. Maybe surviving changes how you see things. Ethan unhitched the horses while Ilara carried the locked box inside. When he entered, she had the money spread on the table, counting it a third time. "Making sure it's all here," she said. "Every dollar." Ethan sat down heavily. His body ached in ways he'd forgotten were possible, but the ache felt earned now, true. "The bank opens at 9, he said. "I know." They sat in silence as the light grew. Outside, the ranch woke slowly, cattle lowing, wind moving through broken boards, the wind fan creaking its steady complaint, all the sounds of a place that refused to die. At 8:30, they rode into town. The bank was a square brick building that had always felt like a place of judgment to Ethan. He and Alara walked in together, the locked box between them. The banker, a thin man named Garrison, looked up from his desk. Surprise crossed his face when he saw them. "Mr. Vance?" he said. "I wasn't expecting you until later." "We're here to pay the whole bill," Ethan said. Garrison's eyebrows went up. He glanced at Alara, then back to Ethan. "The total amount?" "The total amount." They counted it out on his desk, every bill, every coin. Garrison checked it twice, his look changing from doubt to something like respect. When he was satisfied, he pulled out the papers. "This clears your debt in full," he said. He stamped the documents, signed them, and slid them across the desk. "The ranch is yours, free and clear."
Ethan took the papers. They felt heavier than they should have, lighter than he'd feared. Outside, Ilara stopped on the walkway. She looked at him. "That's it?" she asked. "That's it." She nodded slowly. Something let go in her shoulders, tension she'd been holding for days, maybe longer. They rode back in silence. When they reached the ranch, Ethan walked to the worker's house and tore down the debt notice. The nails came out easily. The paper crumpled in his fist. He threw it into the furnace pit where Alara had built her first fire. Inside the cabin, they made coffee. Real coffee this time, not the burned kind Ethan had been stretching. They sat at the table with the papers between them. Proof they owned it. Proof they survived. "What now?" Alara asked. Ethan looked at her. At this woman who'd arrived a week ago, expecting stability and found ruin instead. Who'd rebuilt a furnace in the dark. Who'd worked until her hands bled. Who'd risked everything on a Christmas sale because quiet defeat wasn't acceptable. "Now we work," he said. "The furnace has orders, the ranch needs repairs. Spring will bring more animals if we can afford them. It won't be easy." "It hasn't been easy," Ilara said. "No," Ethan agreed. "It hasn't." She smiled, the first true smile he had seen from her. It changed her face completely. "It's not easy," she said. They drank their coffee. Outside, the furnace sat cold but ready. The ranch stood harmed but standing. The debt was gone, but the labor remained. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was something better. It was a beginning built on truth.
Winter settled in after Christmas, slow and steady. The ranch didn't change overnight. The fences still hung low. The wind fan still needed a new blade. The barn roof leaked when it snowed. But the work felt different now. Not frantic running against collapse, but careful building toward something that might last. Ilara kept the furnace working. Orders came in steadily, carried by word that spread through the county like roots finding water. She made tools, hinges, and fixed wagon parts. Ethan worked beside her when he could, hauling coal,
organizing supplies, keeping the books. The rest of the time, he fixed what was broken, mended the water pump, supported fence posts, cleared snow from the barn. They worked hard, slept soundly, spoke when words were needed. The store order came through, custom door hardware that took Ilara 3 weeks to finish. The mining company sent money up front for the hooks, then doubled the order. A rancher in 2 counties over ordered a set of gates. The money came in, not floods, but steady, enough to buy food, enough to pay for wood, enough to breathe. Quinn rode by once more in late January. He sat on his horse at the property line, looking at the smoke rising from the furnace, at Ethan working on the fence. He didn't say anything, just sat there for a long time, then turned his horse and rode away. He didn't come back. By February, the ranch had settled into a rhythm. Ilara worked the furnace 5 days a week, taking custom orders by agreement. Ethan managed the ranch side, the animals left, the land itself, the framework that held it all together. They ate together, planned together, divided work based on skill instead of guessing. They didn't marry right away. There was too much work, too much tiredness, too much history of desperation and lies that needed time to settle into something honest. Romance felt like something extra neither of them had earned yet, but something grew anyway. Quiet, based on shared tiredness and respect for each other, in the way Ilara left coffee for him before dawn, in the way Ethan prepared her tools without being asked, in talks that moved past just surviving into what could be. Spring came slowly. The grass returned. 3 calves were born. Ilara took on a young helper, a young man from town who wanted to learn the trade. The furnace area grew, a new shed built to hold more equipment. In late April, they stood together at the property line, looking out over land that had almost been lost. "It's not what you advertised," Ilara said. Ethan looked at her. "No, you promised land, a roof, and a future," she said. "The land's half broken, the roof leaks, and the future's still uncertain." "I know," Ethan said. "I'm sorry." Ilara smiled, the first true laugh he had seen from her. "I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's different than expected." "Is that bad?" "No," she said. "It's honest." They stood quiet, watching the wind move through new grass. "We should probably make it official," Ethan said. "The ranch. Us." Ilara turned to look at him fully. "Is that an offer to marry?" "If you want it to be." She laughed, a sound he had come to value. "Not your best work, Ethan." "No," he agreed. "It's not, but I'll take it anyway." They married in June in front of people who knew what they had lived through. No big party, no pretending, just 2 people who had chosen working together over pride, hard work over dreams. The furnace burned bright that evening, music played, people danced in the yard where debt notices had once hung. Ethan and Ilara stood together, watching. The ranch spread out around them, harmed but getting better, broken but standing, built not on luck or saving, but on labor and honesty and the quiet strength of 2 people who refused to quit. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was better than that. It was real. Thanks for listening to Ethan and Ilara's story. If you liked it, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves a good Western tale. More stories of bravery, survival, and second chances are coming your way. See you in the next one.